Pioneer Masters is finally here, and people have been asking me for a super cheap starter deck to get into the format on Magic Arena. So today we're going to see if we can build a competitive Pioneer deck on just a 4 rare budget. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So recently, Pioneer Masters came to Magic Arena, and one thing I've heard a lot of people talking about is wanting to try out the Pioneer or Explorer format, but be nervous about jumping into it because it's pretty expensive, right? If you don't have a long-term Magic Arena collection, you probably don't have all the old cards, you're going to have to buy a bunch of lands and a bunch of rare and mythic wild cards to actually get a deck. So my goal for this episode was to build the cheapest competitive Pioneer deck possible, and the end result is Mono Red Leyline, a deck that's just 4 rares on Magic Arena, 40 bucks in paper, and I think might actually be pretty good. So let's talk about this deck, what it's trying to do, jump into some games, and see if you can win in Pioneer on just a 4 rare budget. So we are a Leyline of Resonance deck, and honestly, our deck kind of draws inspiration from some of the standard decks with Leyline of Resonance, which I guess is another upside. Leylines are only rare, so if you already have Leyline or other standard cards, you might already have a chunk of this deck. So Leyline of Resonance, it's just a Panharmonicon for instants or sorceries that target a single creature we control. If we do that, we get to copy it and do it twice instead. So we are trying to use Leyline, hopefully for free in our opening hand, to grow some super cheap creatures, most of whom deal damage equal to their power when they die, really fastly, and kill our opponent super quick. So we got Cacophony Scamp, Fireblade Charger, Heartfairy Hero, all very similar cards. 1-mana 1/1s that when they die, deal damage equal to their power. Scamp is actually the best because if it deals combat damage, we can sack it and get that trigger. Our last 1-drop, Monastery Swiftspear, just works well with casting a lot of spells thanks to prowess. So that's our creature base. Then we have our pump spells. And our pump spells really come in 2 different forms. First, we have card draw pump spells, Might of the Meek, Expedite, and also Ancestral Anger, which kind of walks the line between a card draw pump spell and a deal a bunch of damage pump spell. But these cards just make sure our hand is full. We're able to cast a bunch of these, maybe chain them together, draw a bunch of cards. If we got Leyline, any of these turn into a 1-mana draw 2, which is kind of ridiculous. And then we have our finish the game pump spell. So for that, we have Monstrous Rage, Turn Inside Out, Titan Strength, and then sometimes Ancestral Anger, depending on how many copies we draw. So these just give our creatures a bunch of power. If we have Leyline, pretty much any 2 of these pump spells is lethal with Cacophony Scamp on turn number 2, which is kind of ridiculous. So that's the goal of the deck. Get the Leyline for free, play the cheap creatures, play the pump spells, smash to death on turn 3 or turn 4. Mana base is simple as possible, 18 mountains. In the sideboard, Reckless Rage for removal, Twisted Fealty as a threat to steal big creatures. Skullcrack shouldn't actually be in the sideboard. I didn't realize it was only a rare on Magic Arena, so technically it'd be more rare wild cards. The good news is it's not very good in the sideboard anyway, so cut it for a Burst Lightning or something. Magebane Lizard for combo, which is important now that Lotus Field is on Arena, and the Soul Guide Lantern for graveyards. And that is Mono Red Leyline, 4 rare, $40 Mono Red Leyline for Pioneer. That's our deck for today. So let's jump into some games and see if we can actually win on a 4 rare budgeted Pioneer. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap up. Need some Magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. Want to help out the channel? Well, you can snag these super sweet new dice, playmats, tokens, and more over at mtggoldfishmerch.com. We are seeing if you can win in Pioneer on a 4 rare $40 budget. We're buying some Mono Red Leyline, and I know with Pioneer Masters finally coming to Arena, I've had people asking about getting into Pioneer, but people being intimidated by the startup cost just because it is an Eternal format. If you haven't played before, you probably need a bunch of old cards. So I wanted to see if we could build an incredibly cheap Pioneer deck that was also competitive, and maybe that would be a good starter deck for people getting into Pioneer. So that's the theory of this one. We'll see how good it is, but it is super cheap to put together. And yeah, all right, no Leyline, but a good hand. Bunch of 1-drops, bunch of pump spells, which is essentially our deck outside of Leyline. Well, Mountain, and let's do a little scamping. So this is kind of, in some ways, I guess I would say, like the Pioneer version of standard mono red. Like, I think that's probably the closest comparison. Another land, not the best. Our deck really, I guess outside of having to cast Leyline, 3 lands probably good most of the time. That's probably all we really need. Well, let's play the land and I guess get down the Heartfire Hero. Do we start casting pump spells? With Leyline, this hand would have been lethal with 2 pump spells and Scamp, but without Leyline, not quite lethal. And I don't think it's worth going all in on pump spells if it's not going to win us the game. So get an Idjit, not a 19. If we draw 1 more pump spell, we might win next turn. Depending on if our opponent has removal. We'll see how much removal they have. Opponent, wow, Watery Grave tapped. All right, well, Mountain. Okay, not a pump spell. I'll get an hit ya. Yeah, let's get in some damage. This is not quite lethal, but it's not that far away. So pump it, hit ya, down to 11, and then sack the Scamp. Would be nice if we hit another 1-drop off this Manifest Dread. Ugh. All right, well, Mountain. All right, opponent, down to 4. Technically not lethal next turn still. Let's see what our opponent has. Okay, Ashiok Dream Render. Well, things are looking up. We have a lot of lethal draws now. Come on. Oh, all right. Fireblade Charger not lethal, although this does put our opponent in a pretty tough position where if they kill any of our stuff, they die. And we're at 20, and opponent scoops it up, and that went pretty well. Not the most explosive draw, but we still pieced together like a turn 4-ish kill, even without Leyline. Sadly, maybe Maze Bane Lizards, but I really think we have not much in the sideboard. All right, on to game number 2. Up against, I don't know, could be a control deck. I guess could also be a mill deck with that Ashiok. Mill isn't really a thing in Pioneer, I don't think. Yeah, all right. I mean, this end's fine. Again, no Leyline, so not the most... The hands with Leyline are the hands where our deck can do nutty things. Our 1 rare, when we draw our 1 rare, it does stuff. Especially in our opening hand. If we draw it later, not so much. Opponent. Oh, wow, okay. Is a mill deck. Oh, Tasha's Hideous Laughter is probably insane against us, come to think of it. Since, yeah, we have a low mana value. Well, let's haste up this Fireblade Charger, draw a card. So many lands. Well, at least we're seeing that our deck can function reasonably. Frang Sanity, even when it kind of floods out. So now any cards that go to our graveyard turns into mill on our end step. So basically, it's like Millamonicon, essentially, Frang Sanity. But no cards in the graveyard, so no mill for us. 6 lands is way too many. Opponent, land, and Frang Sanity. Well, if our opponent ever finds a mill spell, we probably die. We really need to speed up this kill a little bit. Thankfully, we're not getting milled, though. That is kind of the problem with Frang Sanity is by itself, it doesn't do much. Well, let's get down the Monastery Sphere, go to combat. If we cast spells, that's also going to start triggering the Frang Sanities because they go to the graveyard. Hit ya for 3, down to 13. We'd rather cast our spells on the turn our opponent's going to die. Like, ideally, we cast our spells and our opponent head explodes, same turn, fatal push. All right, wow, that was actually... So you want to do an end step to see if we play anything, but doing an end step also means they don't trigger their Frang Sanity, so opponent missed a little bit of mill there. Although it might have been correct to do it that way. Opponent, land. I mean, so they can Risen Reef, mill for 4, mill for 4 more, mill for 8, so Risen... Ooh. Well, let's play the Leyline. I think we play the Leyline and then try to win next turn. Sheoldred's Edict. This Risen Reef is actually a pretty fast clock. Mill 16 a turn is... That's going to get us. We need to close this game out. Hit you down to 12, down to 11. In theory, next turn, we have lethal. Wouldn't mind our opponent tapping out, so we know we don't have to worry about removal. They do have a decent amount of removal, seems like. Opponent, tap land. Oh, are we reefing? Oh, all right, that should do it. That should do it. Opponent, Risen Reef. Actually going to mill a ton of cards because of the Frang Sanity. So mills 4, hits us for 4, not that that matters. End step, Frang Sanity, first one mills 4, second one sees the first one mills 8. Yes, Risen Reef is going to kill us quick, but I think with this Leyline, well, there's a Scamp. Yeah, I mean, I think this should hopefully be lethal, especially since they milled a bunch of Ancestral Angers. Grow it, 4, grow it. Yeah, opponent kind of, I mean, that's the downside of mill, right? Even against our deck, filling our graveyard ended up killing our opponent. With our whiffs on the draws, we wouldn't have won if our opponent hadn't milled those Ancestral Angers. We managed to win, even with some bad draws, which is good news. Well, only one land, but I think that's fine. We got a Leyline, we got a Scamp, and we actually have an insane amount of card draw for a mono red deck. If they kill this Scamp, life becomes sketchy. If they don't kill this Scamp, our opponent's probably going to die super quick. Elcid of Life's Bounty. Which is the worst of our card draw? I guess Haste? Trample's probably more relevant later. All right, let's Expedite. Draw 2. Okay, there's a land. That's good. We did another Leyline, not necessarily as good. If our opponent blocks, we can Monstrous Rage. We're going to Monstrous Rage once anyway. It's not lethal, but this is still a lot of damage. Opponent down to 12. I mean, you need something. You need something pretty quick. This is a good draw. Sheltered by Ghosts. Oh, that's an issue. Okay, well, now we need to draw a creature. Yeah, opponent gonna snipe the Scamp, gonna gain some life. Ah, all right. Well, Scamp number 2, and yeah, let's draw 2 for 1 mana. Cycle this Might of the Meek. Draw a card. Draw a card. Land maybe. Okay, there's a land, and yeah, I mean we will just. Actually, you know what? Let's draw. Let's draw 2 more cards. We're not getting in damage here, but I feel like the card draw is worth it. Ooh, all right. Odds of winning next turn very, very, very high unless our opponent has more removal. Triple Pump Spell, Trample. Winning in 2 turns almost guaranteed. All right, I think we win next turn. Machiko's Reign of Truth. Opponent gonna pump and gotta get and gain that life. So opponent goes up to 19. Can we 19 them this turn? I think we need to draw 1 more Pump Spell, maybe. 3, 6. Oh, actually, I don't even know if we need to draw 1 more Pump Spell. I think we actually just win. All right, let's play this Heartfire Hero so we get the pump off the Might of the Meek. Draw a couple cards. Grow the Scamp. Another Ancestral Anger. Well, Monstrous Rage. Actually, yeah, I don't think it actually matters. Let's Ancestral Anger. Draw more cards. We have drawn so many cards. Up to 7 power, and then turn inside out, up to 13 power. And that's what happens when you start with the Leyline. Oh, when you have the Leyline, this deck sometimes feels kind of unbeatable. Leyline's a nutty card. Even in Pioneer, that card is it is a messed up card. I imagine our opponent grows a big creature, and then we just yoink it and smack him with it. That's the theory anyway. Double Scamp, Monstrous Rage. That's pretty good. Hopefully we draw more pump spells and or card draw, but any hand with a Leyline that's functional is I think a keep. Like Leyline creature spell, I'm probably keeping that. Well, in a couple lands, I'm keeping that every time. Opponent Elcid. I think we play the Scamp to set up potential super fast kills. Opponent Silent Hull Creep. So if we pump, all right, hit ya. No sacking. Get down the Scamp, get down the Swift Spear, and I'm pretty sure we win next turn. Could we have just won there? Do we actually deal that much damage? What if we had Monstrous Rage? That's +5. Ancestral Angler 6/7. Yeah, we're just short. If one of our second pump spells was another Monstrous Rage or something, then we could theoretically have killed on turn 2, but oh, they could have Fatal Push. Draw some cards. See if we can hit a land for another pump spell. I think we'll see. I think we split it up between the 2 Scamps. Monastery Schwiftspear and Heartfire Hero have so many creatures. Opponent's gonna block. Well, let's Monstrous Rage. And I think we just Monstrous Rage the other Scamp. The Swift Spear is gonna kill the Elcid anyway. So both Elcid's gonna die. All right, opponent can get protection, sure. Wait, is this actually lethal? Wait, do we actually? Oh, this is actually. Jeez, this deck deals so much damage. Even through the blockers. Yeah, 5-ya, and then 5-ya. That is lethal, and that's what happens when you draw a Leyline. Good God. Can this deck pour on the damage? Wow. Yeah, this is a good hand. Not a Leyline hand, but a good hand. 2 1-drops, 3 pump spells. Little bit of card draw. Yeah, let's lead on the Fireblade Charger. We're not winning. The upside is Scamp is our best creature, but we can't win with it on turn 2 or turn 3 with this hand. So I think it's better to play the worst creature first in case our opponent's just going to go like land Fatal Push or something. Plus, we always hasten the Scamp if we need to. But the Scamp is just, the ability to sack itself is so good. Opponent Mountain. And oh boy, Heartfire Hero. Opponent also wants to be aggro. Okay. Yeah, I think let's play the Scamp. Let's haste in the Scamp, draw a card. I imagine, well, I don't know. I don't know if our opponent blocks here or not. Probably depends on their hand. Really? Blocks a Fireblade Charger. Huh. Okay. I mean, that's fine. Although I'm actually surprised because Scamp is just the better of the two creatures. The ability to sack itself is so game-ending. It almost has like a built-in fling on it. Oh, all right, opponent, Clever Lumimancer, playing some Boros Spellslinger. Boros Prowess, I guess. Well, let's Ancestral Anger, draw a card. Land is fine. Ancestral Anger, we can Titan Strength Scry. We can also turn Inside Out. Does our opponent have a spell? Yeah, let's Ancestral Anger. Ancestral Anger is a sorcery, so we do have to do it early if we want to do it. Yeah, we'll just get in for 4, and then hopefully one-shot next turn. We don't really want to sack, we don't have any other creatures, so we don't really want to sack this Scamp without having a backup, although I guess we could get a turn inside out creature. Passing. Ooh, turn inside out. All right, let's see if we win here. I feel like the odds are pretty high, unless our opponent has removal. Well, we're gonna get an hit ya. I think we can win through our opponent having pump spells. If they have removal, then all bets are off. But I can't imagine this deck plays that much removal. All right, opponent gonna block with the Hoplite. Well, I think it's time to do some pumping. Let's start with Titan Strength. Sure. And turn inside out. We do need to cast the Might of the Meek at some point for trample. Turn inside. Either opponent's. So if they were trying to slow roll, I think they cast their removal before the turn inside out, right? Unless it's exile removal, but. Well, and Might of the Meek. All right, opponent, that's what we got. We have emptied our hand. We have pumped our Scamp. Do you have an answer? So if our opponent casts a pump spell, we have enough damage. They need some serious pumping to survive by blocking here. Opponent, God's willing. Okay. So protection doesn't really matter because we have trample. They can soak up a little bit of damage, but not enough. Yeah, well, trample over, hit you to 7, and Scamp dies to the face, and that was pretty easy. All right, bonus Fireblade Charger. Maybe you really only need 4 rares to win in Pioneer. Now let's try the Twisted Fealties. Bring in the Threatens. Our opponent seems to have some yoinkable creatures, especially since we can cast spells to pump them. Like Clever Lumimancer would be good in our deck. All right, on to game number 2 against Boros Prowess, I guess? So one of the things worth noting about this deck, it is mono red Leyline. Leyline is the most explosive card, right? That is the card that lets us, oh no, speaking of the devil, opponent with a Leyline. It is the most explosive card, but we're not a deck that has to like mulligan for Leyline or anything. Our deck can, as we've seen, it can definitely easily win even without Leyline on the battlefield. I will say, I am very scared this game. Our opponent having Leyline and a good 1-drop, and us not having Leyline, makes me think we might take a lot of damage real quick here. Opponent. Okay, God's Willing. Well, thankfully, God's Willing is not much of a pump spell. It does mean we're not blocking, and our opponent gets to do a little scrying. One of the things I like, so we don't have any protection in our deck, but we get to play all this card draw, which in a weird way kind of works like protection. Like, the upside of protection is it lets you keep your creature on the battlefield, right? Our card draw kind of lets us do that too, just by drawing enough creatures that we always have one, at least in theory. Well, yeah, this might be the 1-drop turn. Heartfire Hero. I guess we can haste it up, get in some damage. I think we just gotta hope our opponent has a bad hand. Like, with them having Leyline, we're not gonna outpower them. We just gotta try to jank them out and hope our opponent has like 3 lands in hand or something. Get it at ya. All right, opponent. If our opponent has 4 lands, I think we're fine. Otherwise, Ancestral Anger. Draw a couple cards. Pump the Lumimancer. Give it trample. All right, so not 4 lands. That was wistful thinking. Opponent. Untap land down to 15. I mean, if our opponent Defiant Strike, draw a bunch of cards. I guess our opponent can draw a lot of cards too. Yeah, this one's super over. We might be literally dead here, and even if we're not literally dead here, there's no way we're beating this Leyline. All right. Maybe these Twisted Fealties are not as good as I thought. Let's try the Reckless Rages. That might be better. It's fine. I'm just very afraid that our opponent's going to have a Leyline. Cool. I mean, we're keeping this. Double Leyline, 1 creature, no spells. Let's see what happens. Well, Leyline, Heartfire Hero, go. About it. So we need to draw spells. Opponent, thankfully, no Leyline. Oh, another land. Well, we're not attacking. We really value this Heartfire Hero because we do not have a backup at the moment. Card draw would be the best. Any of our card draw spells would be insanely helpful here. About it. Because we kind of started with like 4 cards in hand. I mean, because we put the Leylines on the battlefield, but all right, well, I mean, Monstrous Rage. I guess we could also just draw like another pump spell or 2 and just kill our opponent. Kill our opponent with like 2 pump spells. Do we pump? I think we wait. Hit you down to 17. If we draw another pump spell, opponent's stuck on 1 land too. If we draw another pump spell, all right, opponent gonna draw a card, Ancestral Anger. If we draw another pump spell, we should just win. And Monstrous Rage's Trample is relevant there. Ancestral Anger. All right. Yeah, pretty good. Draws a card. Pumps the Dorks. Wow. All right. Opponent's going to keep 1 back. Pump spell. Pump spell. Might of the Meek. All right. At least that draws us cards. That draws us cards. Lots of cards. Can we hit another pump spell? Might of the Meek X3. Draw Mountain number 5. And Scamp. Ugh, and Mountain number 6. That was like the most depressing draw 3. The Scamp is something. Are we going to lose this? We might be losing this, even with double Leyline. Let it go and get in for 5? Play the Scamp. So we can't really make Scamp lethal on defense, right? 2, 4, so we pump 6, 7, so it's 8 power. So if we block pump, it dies. We hit our opponent to 3. Sheltered by Ghost. All right. To get rid of what? Kind of funny. People very much undervalue the Scamp. That's the second opponent who has sniped a non-Scamp creature with removal. I feel like if you play against this deck, it's always right to kill the Scamp. Like, almost always, at least. Like, the Scamp is our best creature. Opponent gets in, hits us, gains back some life, down to 11. Opponent goes up to 15, pump spell. Reckless Rage. Does this work? Opponent's at 15. We pump. Oh, I think this should just work, right? What if our opponent blocks? So we bump it to 8 power. Opponent blocks. We end up just short. Reckless Rage doesn't work because a Scamp dies. One of the key things about Reckless Rage is it is a way we can kill like a Heartfire Hero or something if we need it to die to deal a bunch of damage. Almost like another weird fling. Well, let's go to combat attack. See if our opponent blocks. If they don't block, I think we win. Well, that's gonna make things easier. If they did block, I think we end up like 1 point of damage short. But yeah, pump it and pump it and also pump it. 8 power. Yeah, if our opponent blocked, they would have went to 1. And Scamp. And sack it. No, we're not going to proliferate your Heartfire Heroes. And 8 to the face. Well, apparently the lesson here is whoever has the most Leylines wins. Nothing else matters. Whoever has the most Leylines gonna win that game. Well, ranking up. No Leyline, but a good hand, a reasonable hand. See what our opponent's up to with their Yarion, Mountain, and let's get down the Scamp. So opponent probably Nivtilite maybe, or something similar. It could be an Overlord deck, Inamac Incarnation. Gotta be something along those lines. Triome Yarion, definitely some sort of 4 or 5 color pile. Opponent Stomping Grounds, untapped. Roaring Furnace. All right, gonna take down. Oh, all right. So Roaring Furnace, I think means Nivtilite. I'm pretty sure that means Nivtilite. Since you want the 2 color cards, well, let's get down a Swift Spear, get down a Heartfire Hero, and hit you for 1. Down to 16. If we draw a land, can we win next turn? Well, we got to worry about Leyline too. Leyline's a thing our opponent can definitely have. I really want to cycle this Might of the Meek. Titan Strength's also good. We got to cast something, right? Yeah, let's just Might of the Meek. Might of the Meek, see if we can draw a card here. Pump the Heartfire Hero. Losing the Heartfire Hero is not the end of the world, but losing the card draw is a bummer. Ew. All right, that's awkward. Lightning Helix is a good one for our opponent. Kills the hero and gains back life, and none of our pump spells can save it. So I guess we just Might of the Meek the Swift Spear. Well, there's a land. Hit ya down to 18. Hit ya down to 14. Well, play the land, and yeah, I guess we play Fireblade Charger. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have a Wrath. I guess maybe we should have played the Might of the Meek pre-combat. I wanted to see what our opponent did during combat, though. Opponent, go to combat, do some attacking. Opponent missing land drop. Probably good news for us. Well, in that case, we can Titan Strength the Charger. Get rid of that land for sure. Grow the Swift Spear. Hit ya. So opponent's down to 10. Pass the turn. Well, all right. Opponent does get to do some looting, but they need something here. Like, our opponent is kind of dying to our beatdown. A single card? Really? And Ancient Cornucopia. Well, that means we'd like to win soon, or our opponent's going to start gaining life. Fabled Passage. Well, opponent passes pump spell. Turn inside out. Does that do it? Well, okay, the question is, does our opponent have an instant? If they do not have an instant, I think this should be lethal, right? Because each adds +4 thanks to prowess. Well, turn inside out the Swift Spear. We don't know if our opponent has something because they have that Fabled Passage, so it's going to give them priority anyway. Turn inside out. The Fireblade Charger. Might as well split it up. Worst case, if they have removal, they'll take some damage. Best case, death, destruction. Wow, opponent didn't have it, and this deck's kind of crushing everyone. This is a new hotness. Niv Delight is the new hotness, thanks to Pioneer Masters, or one of the new hot decks. 4 rares? 4 rares. Didn't even have the Leyline. I don't even know if we actually need the Skull Crack, that's what I meant. I don't even know if we need that in the sideboard, but we can try it. We saw the Ancient Cornucopia. It could be real. I like the surprise damage aspect. Our opponent's not going to think we have direct damage to the face. They're going to try to kill our creatures, so maybe Skullcrack can sneak in and get them if we can get them low enough. Yeah, all right. On to game number 2, up against Niv Delight, I believe. We got a Leyline. We are happy. Show us that Leyline binding on our Leyline. I guess that's actually a flavor win, right? If you Leyline binding the Leyline, you're doing literally what the card tells you to do. Found it. Leads on a Triumph. Well, there's a Twisted Fealty. I feel like Threaten's one of those cards, and it feels good to get people with. Like, people just don't expect you to yoink their creature and smash him to death with it. When it works, it's kind of hilarious. Found it. Gonna take down the Charger with a Fatal Push. Well, ping it for 1. Thankfully, we do have a backup, although we're not in an especially creature-heavy hand. All right, there's a Scamp. That's good. With this hand, a single Scamp attack is lethal, right? With Leyline, any 2 good pump spells should be lethal with Scamp, unless our opponent has a huge wall of blockers or removal or something. Well, get on the Charger, double 1-drop, go. And hope that our opponent just taps out for something that's not removal and then dies brutally to our Leylines. Found it. Forest. Sure. So removal's bad, sweeper's bad for us. Sylvan Carry added. Okay, that's kind of fine. Glad they finally added it to her. Ooh, all right. So they do have a single mana. I mean, we gotta go for it. We gotta go for it. I don't think we can not go for it because they could have Fatal Push. Opponent in 19, feeling kind of safe, but should not be feeling safe unless they have Fatal Push. Monstrous Rage. Yeah, we have to go all Scamp, right? If they got the Fatal Push, they got the Fatal Push, although they probably would have used it. Titan Strength ×2, pump it, bump it. Sure, Heartfire Hero, that's fine. All right, opponent, if you got removal, cast it now or forever be dead. All right, no removal. It just keeps working. It just keeps working. Niv Delight, the hot new deck. Cannot beat 4 rares. That deck's expensive too because you need the mana base. Their deck's probably like X10, X15, the rares that we have. We are playing some mono red Leyline in Pioneer. 4 red, $40 mono. Oh, yeah, we can't keep this. Well, okay, that's a good 6. One of the rules of this deck, you cannot keep a hand with no creatures. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know if there's even any exceptions to that rule. Like, if I had double Leyline on my best pump spells, I still don't think I could keep a no creature hand. Not at 7, at least. I don't know what we put to the bottom here, though. Expedite, I like the card draw. Let's put a creature. Yeah, let's put one of the creatures. We're gonna go in on the Swift Spear. Oh god. Well, Leyline versus Leyline, except our opponent has Leyline of the Guild Pact. Who's got the better Leyline? Opponent, Forest and Elvish Mystic. Well, okay, Mountain, Monastery Swift Spear. Kind of mirror images of each other, right? Leyline, basic, 1-drop. Opponent, oh god, Nykthos. I think this is the best possible start Mono Green Devotion can have. Like, literally the best possible start. Turn 0 Leyline, turn 1, 1-drop land, turn 2 Nykthos. Cast a Cavalier of Thorns. Oh, I don't know, even with our Leyline, I don't know how we're beating this. Well, let's expedite, draw some cards, see if we can draw our way out of this somehow. Heartfire Hero and Ancestral Anger. Well, let's play the hero. I mean, our opponent's down to 2 cards. Our hope is that our opponent is out of action, and then we just one-shot them with these pump spells. Not impossible. Wait, is this turn 3 Kogla? Okay, wait, no. Turn 2 Cavalier of Torrents, turn 3 I think this is the best I have literally ever seen Mono Green do. What? No. Turn 3 Kogla and Vorinclex? This can't be right. We've played 2 lands. Okay, Mono Green Devotion looking absurd here. I think this is literally their nut draw. Yeah, it doesn't matter. There's no way. Even if we cast all these pump spells. Well, that's Ancestral Anger. Draw 2. There's just no way we can get through this wall of death. Even we could pump the Heartfire Hero a lot, but not enough to get through lethal. Yeah, if our opponent doesn't block, so we can double Monstrous Rage, grow it a bunch, hit him, die in the backswing. Yeah, that I think that draw is literally unbeatable. That draw is insane. I'm glad we lived through that. I wish it was us doing it instead of our opponent, but that was the reason to play Mono Green Devotion right there. Just an absolutely unbeatable Nykthos start. Casting 10 mana of bombs on turn 3. Well, I think this is the matchup for the threatens. And do a little trimming. Run it like that on a game number. It can't go worse, right? There's no way it can go worse than that game 1 went. All right, there's a Leyline. Does our opponent have a Leyline? The Leyline was the thing that did that. The extra 4 Devotion just gave our opponent so much mana with Nykthos. We will start with a Leyline. Opponent will not, which is good news. Fireblade Charger, go. And Elvish Mystic. All right, opponent's off to a bit fairer of a start here. Well, let's draw some cards, I guess. Ancestral Anger, draw a card. Draw a card. Pump the Dork. Turn Inside Out, not bad. Yeah, I think we just let it go. And then I think there's a good chance we can win next turn. We might actually get to do the Reckless Rage trick, where we might actually need it to be able to kill this Fireblade Charger, since they have the Nykthos. What a difference the Leyline makes. Like, this is the same start our opponent had last game, except they had the Leyline, and it was insane. This game, not as scary. Well, play the land. Pump spell, and then Reckless Rage to kill the Charger. Well, turn Inside Out. Pump it up to 7 power. Monstrous Rage, pump it up to, what, 12 power? 12, yeah. Reckless Rage will kill your elf, but really, this is to kill our own Fireblade Charger. To get that last 12 points of damage, and, well, I mean, that's upside of Reckless Rage. Little awkward that sometimes it kills our own creature when we don't want it to, but very not awkward there as a combo piece. And what a match. Opponent had the absolute dream in game 1, and then we kind of had a pretty dreamy draw in game 2. Can we finish with the 5-0 sweep with only 4 rares? More wins than rares. We got a Leyline. We got some 1-drops. Only 1 pump spell. We could use more pump. Card draw. Could use a card draw pump spell. Opponent, Elvish Mystic. Well, land. Well, they had to play their Beseiju. That's good news, because that could kill our Leyline. Well, let's play the Scamp. Just in case we want to get frisky next turn. Yeah, thankfully, we've dodged Leyline these last 2 games. I feel like if our opponent had Leyline in game 2 or this game, we might be losing. We have had Leyline every game this match. Outcaster Trailblazer just runs it out, draws a card. Or does not draw a card, makes a mana. Card draw coming in the future, perhaps. Well, let's I guess we just do the 1-drop turn and build a board and hope to draw a pump spell for next turn. Yeah, we're just gonna pass. We don't really want to lose the Scamp. We could like attack, and if they block, shoot down the hostile. Interesting. I don't know why. Yeah, all right, another Outcaster Trailblazer. We need a pump spell. We need a pump spell. I don't even really care which one. The card draw would be the best, just because that could draw us better pump spells, but another Scamp. All right. Well, that's not exactly a pump spell. We might have to attack anyway here. We might need to just like clean up this board a bit. Easier to swing with everything knowing we have another Scamp left over. What do we put the second one on? So we hit the Scamp, so it kills the Trailblazer, and then I guess we just go unblocked Heartfire Hero, get in that damage, grow it. So trample over the Trailblazer, hit ya. Opponent's at 13. I kind of feel like we kill the Trailblazer. Usually we just want to go face, but I think I'd rather have this Trailblazer dead. This leaves our opponent with 1 green source, no card advantage engine. This hostile looking a little hostile to our opponent's chances of winning. Kiora, even with untapping, they still can't like play a Cavalier, right? Unless they find a green source. Ugh. Well, I mean, honestly, other than having this Leyline, it's not like we're running especially well, but neither is our opponent. This is kind of funny. Game 1, opponent had absurd mono green draw. Game 2, we had absurd mono red draw. And this game, kind of the slap fight where neither one of us has that. I mean, we have the Leyline, so we can't complain that much. But like, we kind of drew a lot of lands, didn't draw many pump spells. Opponent, scrap shooter. Well, there goes our Leyline. Draw us something good. Man, so many creatures. We've just drawn the creature half of our deck. Opponent finds the forest. All right. Oh, Monstrous Rage. Does that let us win? We really would like to win this turn because they actually are getting green mana now, so big things are going to start coming. Can we win through a 4/4? Well, swing both of your face. I think so. So opponent blocks on the Heartfire Hero. Let's pump it. I think this works because it doesn't pump toughness, right? So we hit for 1. We hit to 5, and then it dies. Oh, yeah, we're going to sack the Scamp too to send the message. And, well, that's 5-0 with 4 rares. Well, if you're looking for a budget deck, it's super cheap and actually kind of good. But I guess that's wrap-up stuff. Be right back. So what do we learn this week about mono red Leyline on a 4-rare $40 budget in Pioneer? And the deck kind of crushed it. We went 5-0 pretty quickly and easily with the deck. A lot of just 2-0 sweeps. The deck actually felt super powerful, which I guess is not surprising because we've seen similar decks do really well in Standard. So I think if you're looking to get into Pioneer or Explore, I guess, on Magic Arena, but you're looking for a super duper cheap starter deck that you can put together without spending a bunch of money, a bunch of wild cards, but can actually rank up on the ladder and win games, I think this is the one. Obviously, our sample size is pretty small, right? 5 matches. So going 5-0 is nice, but this isn't a deck that's going to win 100% of the time. But I think this is a deck that's fast enough, strong enough, resilient enough to actually rank up on the ladder on Arena on a super cheap budget. The other nice thing about this deck is there's a couple of easy upgrade paths. If you look at the Pioneer metagame, you'll see Rakdos Prowess, 3rd most played deck in the format. That's a deck that you can kind of upgrade this into. Even though it's not a Leyline deck, it's doing a lot of similar things with cheap creatures, a bunch of pump spells, and then if you go into black, you basically get a bunch of better sideboard options, Thought Seizes, Obnixiluses, Fatal Pushes. The downside is it makes the deck a lot more expensive, right? Mostly because you're going to need a huge pile of dual lands to actually make the mana work, but if you start with the mono red deck, you can upgrade this direction. Also, probably could go into like Gruul if you wanted to. I've seen like Gruul Prowess be a thing before. I don't think it's actually like a top tier Pioneer deck at the moment, but that's another option. So essentially, you can take this base and turn it into a 2-color deck, which gives you more flexibility in the sideboard. The downside, like I said, is you got to spend a bunch of rare wild cards to get your mana base together. But anyway, that is Mono Red Leyline. That's been our budget magic for this week. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.